So you only have to answer 2 of these questions on the performance final, but I'm going to do all of them so you'll be ready for anything. The first problem says Buddy and Tiffany want to go to the Gwinnett Carnival for their first date. And we're given some information here that each ride costs $250 and that tickets cost $750 per person, and also that they have $65 total to spend on these tickets and rides. So we need to write, actually it's going to be an inequality that models this situation because they have $65, so they need to spend less than or equal to 65, right? It's okay if they have money left over, but they can't spend more than 65. So it says that each ride costs $250. Well, let's let the number of rides they do be X, because that's what we don't know, what they don't know. So we can say $250 times that number of rides, but then we have to add the cost of entry. Well, there's 2 of them, so it costs $750 each to enter. If we multiply that by 2, that's $15. So we have to add that $15 entry fee there to write our inequality. And that's it. Now the B part says, Buddy believes he and Tiffany can go on 20 rides each. Do you agree or disagree? Well, 20 rides each means 40 rides total, right? Because there's 2 of them. So let's put that into our inequality and see what happens. 250 times 40 plus 15, is that less than or equal to 65? When we multiply 250 times 40, we actually get 100. So it's not looking good. 100 plus 15, less than or equal to 65. 115 is less than or equal to 65. Well, that's not true, is it? So, no, they can't go on 20 rides each. So we disagree. And we disagree because it's not in their budget. They don't have enough money. So you can write an explanation for that. 115 is not less than 65. C part says, if Tiffany contributes an additional $10 to the total amount of money they could spend, how many more additional rides can Buddy and Tiffany go on? So here we're only interested in the rides, how many rides they can do. We know they cost $250 each, so $250 times what? Times how many rides would equal $10. How many rides is that $10 going to get you? Well, if we divide both sides by 250, you get X equals 4. And that's a nice number, but what does it mean? It means that they could go on 4 additional rides if they have $10 more. In this one, we read, best friends Sally and May went hiking this past weekend, and both girls recorded their walk back down. Now, it looks like Sally chose to record her walk back down as a graph, and then May chose to record her walk down as a table. So the first question says, who climbed the highest on the mountain? And explain your reasoning. It's easy to tell that Sally started at 400 feet. So that's her initial value, or her height that she started from. For May, we have to do a little bit of math here because it doesn't show us where she started, where she was at 0 minutes. But we can see a pattern here, 240 to 270 to 300. We're adding 30 each time if we're going this way in the table. So from 390, it would actually be 420, right, if we add 30 to that. So we got 420 and 400. So May climbed highest. And then you can explain that by saying because her initial altitude was higher, because she started at 420 feet and Sally started at 400 feet. Something that shows me that you understand your answer, and that's what gets you full credit. Now the second question says, who walked down the slowest? Slowest, that implies that we're looking for a rate of change, or slope, which always equals the change in y over the change in x. So for a graph, we can just choose 2 points. Probably be really easy just to choose the starting point and the ending point right here. This point is 0, 400. And this point here is, looks like 16, comes right after 15 there, 16, 0, right? So then we can figure out the change in y from 400 to 0 is negative 400, right? We're dropping 400. And then from 0 to 16, is a positive 16. So we put that in the calculator. 400 divided by 16 is 25. So Sally's rate of change was negative 25. She's descending at 25 feet per minute, looks like. Now for May, we have to figure out change in y over change in x. So the change in y from 390 to 360 would be negative 30. And then the change in x from 1 to 2 is just 1. So for May, her rate of change is going to be equal to negative 30 over 1, or just negative 30. So it looks like May was descending faster as well. So the question is, who walked down the slowest? So Sally walked down the slowest. And you can give an answer like her rate of change was negative 25, while May was negative 30. Her rate of change is slower than May's. There's a lot of different ways you can explain it, but that's how you show that you understand what the answer means. Part C says, May believes she arrives at the bottom of the mountain before Sally. Do you agree or disagree? Explain your reasoning. Well, it's very easy to tell from the graph that Sally reached the bottom at 16 minutes right here. It's a little more work to figure it out for May. We can actually write an equation. We have everything we need to write the equation. Remember, we said our slope was negative 30. So I can actually write y equals negative 30x plus 420, because we also figured out our initial value. So what we need to do to figure out when she reached the bottom is to make that y equal to 0, because y is the height, right? So if I do that, I say 0 equals negative 30x plus 420. Then if I add the 30x to both sides, I get 30x equals 420. And then I need to divide both sides by 30, and I find that x equals 420 divided by 30 is 14. So she arrived at the bottom at 14 minutes. And this is May. All right? So we have May's time and Sally's time now. So let's see, let's read the sentence again. May believes she arrives at the bottom of the mountain before Sally. Well, yeah, looks like she's right. She arrived at the bottom at 14 minutes, or after 14 minutes. Sally arrived at the bottom at 16 minutes, so a couple of minutes later. So we can say we agree, and the reason is what we just said, that May arrived after 14 minutes, Sally arrived after 16 minutes. Okay, this is a system of equations problems. It says a class of 200 students went on a field trip. They took 10 vehicles, some cars and some buses. Find the number of cars and the number of buses they took if each car holds 4 students and each bus holds 84 students. Okay? So let's see if we can write the equations. Let's say x equals cars and y equals buses. First step, always, let's define our variables. So if there were 200 students and they took 10 vehicles, we know that the cars plus the buses is 10, because we're told that there are 10 vehicles total. Remember how there's usually one equation about the quantity or the amount, and the other is, in this case, is about the capacity of each of the vehicles. So there were 200 students. We know that each car holds 4 students, so we can say 4x. And then each bus holds 84, so we can say plus 84y equals 200, because there are 200 students, right? And there's a couple of ways to solve this. Part B says solve it. Now, I'm going to remind you guys, use Desmos, okay? Put it in the Desmos graphing calculator. I'm going to show you how to do it without Desmos. I could multiply this top equation by -4, and then I could solve it using elimination. So I'll show you how to do that, remind you how to do it. If you multiply that out, you have -4x minus 4y equals -40. And then I'm going to write the other equation underneath it just like it is, because we didn't change it. All right, then if you add those two together, this becomes 0. -4 plus 84 is 80. And then 200 minus 40 is 160. So y equals, if I divide both sides by 80, I'm going to get that y equals 2. So that means that there are 2 buses, right? Now, how many cars do we have? Well, we know if we add the vehicles together, there has to be 10. So if we have 2 buses, 10 minus 2 is 8, so we must have 8 cars. And the last problem asks, what does the solution to the system of equations represent? So that's when it's asking, what does it mean? And we already gave a clue about that. It means there are 8 cars that they took, and then there are 2 buses that they took. All right, for this problem, I'm going to make a couple of changes in the problem. We're going to say Justin saved $20 in the first month of a year, and then increased his monthly savings by $550. On the nth month, his monthly savings became $53. So the first question asks, write an expression that can be used to find the nth term. Remember, the general equation for a sequence is a sub n is equal to the first term plus the common difference times n minus 1. So here we know what the first term is. He had $20 to begin with. And then the common difference, it says he increased his monthly savings by $550. So every month he's increasing by $550 times n minus 1. All right, then it says in part B, how many weeks will it take for Justin's savings to reach $53? So what we're looking for is when will a sub n be $53? And that's always the trick, isn't it? Figuring out where you need to put the value in order to solve. But in this case, we put it in for our term, for our a sub n term. So 20 plus 550 times n minus 1. And we're looking for n. What is n at that point? So first we got to use distributive principle, right? 53 equals 20 plus 550n minus 550. Then I can collect like terms, my 20 and my 550. 53 equals 20 minus 550 is, make sure I don't make a mistake here, 1450. So you have 1450 plus 550n. You can't combine that term because it has an n. Then you can subtract that 1450 from both sides. This is just solving equations, guys. Nothing new. 53 minus 1450 is 3850. So you have 3850 equals 550n. And if you divide both sides by 550, 3850 divided by 550, you get 7. So that means n equals 7, or it takes him 7 weeks to get to a savings of $53. The last question says, how much money will he have saved after 2 years? And they give you a hint, 1 year equals 12 months. That's how I knew that they meant to put months in that problem instead of weeks. But here we're looking for another value. After 2 years, let's see, 2 years, if we say 1 year is 12 months, then 2 years, that's 24 months, right? So what we're looking for is the 24th term of this sequence. So we put A24 equals, and we use our equation from before, 20 plus 550, and we put the 24 here too, right? Everywhere there's an n. 24 minus 1. So that equals 20 plus 550 times 23. 550 times 23 is 126.50. And if I multiply 126.50 times 550, I get 695. And then if I add 20 to that, I get the 24th term of this sequence equals $715.75. So that's how much he will have saved after 2 years.